So let's have a little chat, shall we? So I was doing some deep thinking this morning or this afternoon, whatever one you want to call it. And I began to understand a lot of things that have been taking place, and I'm only speaking about me. If you do not understand your ego, then you can't fully understand how to control your mind. Because a lot of times, if not all the time, the ego is the entity that is keeping us trapped in this constant cycle of misery, depression, oppression, or whatever the case may be. Let me get a little bit biblical for you. We are in the end of days right now. And symbolically, what the end of days actually means, we are in the end of days in regards to the ego. The ego is in the end of its days. That's what the Bible was talking about. And when the Bible was talking about the devil or Satan, they were talking about symbolically, they were talking about the ego. Remember in the Bible, it says that in the end of days, the devil is going to do everything he possibly can to destroy you, me, and everybody else before he is cast into the so-called motherfucking bottomless pit. And that is nothing. The bottomless pit or the black hole is symbolic of the black woman's womb. So what they're really saying is that it's going to take the black woman to really come through and save all of us. That's symbolically what they're saying. Or what they're saying is that the black woman has the ability. Anytime they talk about a bottomless pit or a black hole or anything like that, they're symbolically talking about the black woman's womb. So what they're saying is that the black woman has the ability to put an end to all of this motherfucking shit. Now this is all symbolic and metaphorical and shit like that. So don't get it, the part about the black woman, that's not metaphorical. That's what they're saying symbolically. They're not going to come right out and say it. So that is why you see so many attacks here lately against black women. You can look right here on YouTube. You can look right here on YouTube and see that. And I'm not getting back into that, that type of content, but I'm just using that to make a point about what's going on an esoteric, on an occult or a spiritual level. The ego is the real motherfucking devil or Satan, whichever one you want to call it. The ego is the real devil. The ego, because you know what they say, the devil's biggest trick is making you think that he doesn't exist. And this is all symbolic of the ego. They're talking about how the ego is in the background maneuvering and doing all types of shit, and it goes unnoticed, and people are actually thinking, oh, it's this person doing something to me, or it's that person doing something to me. No, it's your ego, and your ego is connected to the demiurge. The demiurge and the fucking ego are really intertwined. So are those fucking archons. So the ego is designed to keep you trapped. It is designed to keep you in depression and oppression and fear because the ego doesn't like change. And the ego does not want you to see change. Even in your dreams in the astral realm, the ego can present you with different illusions to keep you distracted. But see, you have to have a keen spiritual eye, like I do, to be able to see past those distractions. If that makes sense. See, and you know, I'm only talking about when I talk, I'm speaking of personal experiences. So let me say this to anybody out there who may be feeling any of these types of symptoms. If you are feeling depression, if you're feeling like you're oppressed, if you're having problems with anxiety, panic attacks, if you're feeling just, you know, kind of off, like you want to cry all the time, a few things are happening. Number one, your ego is attacking you. You're under attack by your ego. Remember what I remember, I'm just saying that for layman's to give people an understanding. Remember, in the end of days, before you go into perpetual nirvana, or whatever you want to call it, or anything close to it, remember, the devil, aka the ego, is going to do everything it possibly can to survive. That is the ego's main goal, is to survive and to feed off of you and your fears. We don't have control. Now, the ego is part of us, but because we don't have control over our minds, the ego has run amok. It has run amok. The ego was originally created and designed for us to come down into the physical realms to do certain experiments with genetic alchemy. But what happened is, as the more and more we incarnated physically, the more and more we became detached from our subconscious mind and the quantum world, and we got stuck in this world, this atomic world, which is the world of the world of the physical. We became more and more attached to the atomic world and more detached from the quantum world. See, the ego was created. See, we created the ego. We created the ego. But what happened was we allowed it to get out of control. The ego was created as an experiment. This was all experimentation. And then we allowed it to run amok. We created the ego, I'm talking about black people, we created the ego in order for us to be able to sustain and be balanced in the physical realms. But what ended up happening was the ego took over because we started becoming, you know, more and more, what's the word I'm looking for? We started becoming more and more enthralled in having earthly and physical riches, or some people may call it carnal pleasures. And once we started to give into those things, we became more and more disconnected from the subconscious mind, the quantum world, which is the real motherfucking world of the real, or whatever you want to call it. But the ego was created in order for us to sustain physical life here in the physical realms. It made things a little bit more easier and more balanced. But the more and more we became enthralled in physical life, we began to detach from our spiritual world, the quantum world, and we became trapped in this world. And in this world, the ego ran amok. So if you're feeling these symptoms, because remember, like I said, in the last days, they say the devil is going to run amok. All of these wars and all of these things, they're talking about the apocalypse and all of that. That is what's going on inside of us. The ego versus the subconscious mind. The ego is what we would call the Antichrist. The subconscious mind is the Christ. Let's just say that. The ego versus the subconscious mind. The ego is the Antichrist or the devil. The subconscious mind is the Christ. Let me say it that way so people can get what the fuck I'm saying. All of these things are taking place inside of you. So there is a war going on inside of your mind. The ego versus the subconscious. So what's happening is that Your Kundalini energy is rising at the same time because that is the life force that is at the base of your fucking spine. You know, the reptilian that everybody talks about, the Kundalini force. That is rising as well, bringing forth knowledge. That was all they were talking about in the Garden of Eden. Apple, snake, knowledge, tree of knowledge. Apple, snake, knowledge. Apple, snake, knowledge. Tree of knowledge. The tree of knowing. So we are in the age of knowing right now. And these are the end of days for the ego. So, and don't take that literally when I say the end of days. I'm not talking about the world ending in the context of some type of apocalyptic whatever. No. We're talking about the end of the ego. And this is why we're seeing in different places now volcanoes erupting. You know, they're having horrible earthquakes in Puerto Rico right now, but there's another aspect to that I'm not going to get into because that would offend too many people. I'm not going to talk about that on here. There's something else going on with that shit with Puerto Rico as well. But I'm not going to get into all that. Yeah, I know spiritually what's going on with those earthquakes and all that other stuff going on in Puerto Rico and those other islands down there. There's something with that on a spiritual level, but I ain't getting into all that. There was a channel that came through to me, but I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that. Let me just say that. But in conjunction with that, this is because of the war that's going on inside of our own fucking mind. So as above, so below. So whatever's going on inside of niggas, it's going to manifest on the motherfucking planet physically. So that is why the planet is heating up. Bobby Hemmett told you all that a long time ago. I don't know if anybody was paying attention. So the Kundalini is causing all of these, you know, different anomalies with the planet heating up and shit like that, or global warming. That's because our Kundalini energy is rising. But I'm pretty sure most people may understand that. But the ego is the reason why you're having these symptoms, because the ego is trying to distract you and keep you trapped in this motherfucking matrix so it can maintain its fucking control over you. And I'm only talking because I know, because I've been through it, I'm going through it, and I understand what's happening. But here's what you can do to get your motherfucking ego under control. You talk to that, you go in the fucking mirror and you talk to that, you talk to your reflection, because you're really talking to an aspect of yourself that is not balanced, because the ego should be balanced with and synchronized with the subconscious mind while you're here. The problem is that we've been operating from our ego so much, so the ego has been in control. So in order to get your ego under control, you have to talk to your ego like you talking to any other motherfucking nigga. You say, look, motherfucker, you are not going to control me. You are not going to control my motherfucking life. You are not going to continue doing this motherfucking shit to me. You are not going to continue distracting me. Bow down, motherfucker. Bow down. And then you go into a dark room and you close your eyes and you get real motherfucking quiet, because see, the ego don't like that. The ego does not like it when you're in a dark place or in a dark space with your eyes closed. That is why so many people have problems meditating, because when they try to meditate, see, I don't. When they try to meditate, because I'm learning how to control my ego. When they try to meditate, the ego always interferes. It always interferes when you're trying to meditate, and that's because the ego, it's like another entity. It's part of you, but because we can't control it, it's like another entity. Same with the subconscious mind. When you try to meditate, the ego does everything it possibly can to try to distract you and to keep you from focusing. And that's because the ego does not like to be in darkness and stillness. The ego doesn't like that. That's why so many people say when they try to meditate, it's so many different things going on in their mind that they can't get into that relaxed state. That's your ego. That is your ego fucking with you. So you have to talk to your ego like you talking to a motherfucking nigga. You have to communicate with your ego like you talking to another motherfucking nigga. And you have to say, look, motherfucker, you go in the mirror because you're talking to an aspect of yourself that has run amok. And you say, look, nigga, you're not going to keep doing this shit to me. You're not going to keep being in control. You're not in fucking control. I'm in control. And you're not going to keep doing this shit to me. And you call out whatever your affliction is that the ego is causing. You call that motherfucking shit out. You call it out. You call it out and you say, no, you're not going to keep doing X, Y, and Z to me. And once you do that, then the ego is going to kind of back off because you're starting to get more control. You have to be repetitive with it. You have to keep doing it. Until you feel a difference in your energy and until you feel a difference in your mind. Because remember, the war that is going on is in your mind. You're being distracted by people outside of us who are taking advantage of the fact that we don't understand our own fucking mind. So they're making you think that these things are going to happen on the outside of you, but the things happening on the outside of us are nothing but a reaction to what's going on inside of us. Inside of the mind, between the ego and the subconscious mind that are warring right now. The war is between the ego and the subconscious mind. That is why so many things are happening. And right now we're up under the energy of the vibration of the number 4. The number 4 correlates with the planet Mars. Mars is a warring planet. That's a warring type of energy, supposedly. So it makes sense that all of these things are happening right now. Earthquakes and upheaval and shit like that. That makes sense. But anyway, I just felt like coming through discussing this. It was on my mind. And I hope somebody got something out of it. Thank you.